Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charles. This is another Worcestershire church. This is the church of St Michael, Rochford. It's in the Teme Valley. It's in fact down near the river. And this is again very much there, as I said before about the Teme Valley, this is very much, and historically very much more so even, a cider area. And as we look around this church, we'll see a couple of interesting features to do with the local cider industry. This is a Norman building. It is 12th century. It has been altered in the 14th century, and then again, of course, in the 19th century when it was restored. And there are a number of interesting features to point out. There's quite a lot of stained glass windows here as well. So we'll have a look around and see the beauties of St Michael's, Rochford, Worcestershire. So here we are. Where do we start? The West End. Why do we start at the West End? Because that's where you're supposed to. Well, the font is, you'll notice, near the door, which is halfway along the wall. Here we have a 1950s window of the Archangel Michael, looking suitably impressive and warlike, because of course he is the commander of the Lord's forces. There's the font, Victorian, of course. Now the interesting thing here is the organ. This is, you can see, it's a country house type organ. It looks to be Georgian. It's a nice case there, and see what the church history has to say about the organ. Hopefully something, because that's a very good organ. Nice case. It's obviously it's a country house organ rather than any other kind of organ. There doesn't appear to be any note on the organ, which is a shame, but it clearly is a nice organ. I expect it's a really nice instrument to play. It's a chamber organ. There's one of the original Norman windows with John the Baptist in it. The font is Victorian, and you can see here it's got on the front Christ receiving little children. Let the little children come unto me, which is not about baptism, but there we are. We have there the War Memorial, and above the Hanoverian Royal Arms. You can just about see them in this light. The lights would originally have been oil lamps, but they've now been converted to electricity. Another little Norman window there with a modern glass inside. The pulpit is, of course, Victorian, quite nice. And there we have Mary and Martha in this window here. Now, above the chancel arch, you can see, what are those? Those are hops. A sample of the local hop harvest. The first fruits, as it were, brought in. They're dried out, and we saw them doing that a few weeks ago at Stockton-on-Tees. Obviously, the same day for me, but a few weeks ago for you. And they're hung up over the arch here. Sometimes they'll be hung up in the porch. And it's a first fruit celebrating the harvest, celebrating local farming, which is a good thing. We're coming up, of course, on Harvest Festival season. Some churches already have theirs. We have our Harvest Thanksgiving at the beginning of October. East window, little panel of the Nativity with some angels. It's a nice, I think, 14th century piscina there. No sedilia, and no indication there was one. And a modern Norman window with modern stained glass inside it. So that, and then look at the hops hanging down like that. Wonderful. So that is the inside here at Rochford. See, it's not very big. Norman churches tend not to be, but it is quite impressive. Now here's something that I need to make sure we take a look at, which is you can see there at the back there, that raised bit there. That's, of course, to keep the backs of people's necks from getting too cold, but also getting too warm, because that is a radiator. You need it in the winter here. Certainly in the 19th century, of course, things were cooler in Britain in the winter. They had colder winters back then. They were just coming out of a cold period in the climate. So there we are inside at Rochford Church. Well, let's have a look then around the outside. And so here we are outside Rochford in the Teme Valley, and it really is in the Teme Valley. We'll see that when we go around the outside. You see the church behind me, this little belfry and its spire on the belfry. And very, very common around here to have these, as we've seen, of course, in the previous videos, we've seen that quite a lot of churches around here, you don't have a tower, a little belfry. Of course, Norman churches, unless they're very important, they didn't have towers. A tower was a high status thing, and of course towers become simpler, shall we say, but it become cheaper to do as time goes by. So let's have a look around the outside and again point out the usual salient features of this lovely building. And so here we are now. The first thing we'll do, in fact, we'll go and take a look here, the edge of the graveyard, and you can just see here the edge of the graveyard and the river is just down there. The river Teme is just down there on the other side of the road. We can see that vehicle going past, that van. That's the other side of the river. We have here a memorial to John Patrick Keneally, VC, of the Irish Guards. It's always interesting to see, you know, when you get a VC here. He died in 2000, so he had won a VC during his lifetime, which is good because he's born in what, 1921, yes. So won a VC and survived. You can see here that so this is cider country. We saw the hops in the church, and you can see just down here, here are some of the apple trees that provide the apples for the cider. Now, for American viewers, in Britain, cider is always alcoholic. So if you come to the UK and you order cider, remember that the term hard cider doesn't exist in this country. We just say cider and it's alcohol. If it's not alcoholic, then it is not called cider at all. It is apple juice. I know of a case where some American teetotalers accidentally broke their vow of teetotalism when they came to the UK and ordered cider, and commented about how sleepy they felt that afternoon. But the cider remains of a cider orchard here, I think. Very nice. And here we are. You can see this is the great treasure of the church on the north side, and this is the north doorway. This big Norman doorway that sticks out a bit and has a tympanum on it. The tympanum is this bit over the door where the arch is blocked up by the top of the arch is blocked up by this piece of stone. That's called a tympanum, and this is it looks like a tree. It's a bit weathered down here, but it's a very nice tympanum. Yeah, of course there's a bottle though, important these days. And of course the Victorian vestry, because the Victorians generally felt the great need for a vestry. And see there's the old church farmhouse, which doesn't appear to be lived in at the moment. Although the outbuilding stable there clearly has sheep in it. So that is Rochford, outside here at St Michael's, Rochford. A lovely Norman building, as we've seen, and some nice surviving Norman features. And so there we have it, Rochford, St Michael's, Rochford, here in the truly picturesque Teme Valley. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.